Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 9. Represent the title is Main Memory in Operation System. And the member, among others, me, Farhan Prasetyo, Muhammad Farhan Budiana, Rahadian Antarwirja. For the first page, we explain about the meaning of operating system. Operating system is a software that allows users to run other applications on a computing device. Why is it possible for a software application to interface directly with hardware? The vast majority of applications are written for an operating system, which allow them to the advance of common libraries and not worry about specific hardware details. For the example of operating system, namely Microsoft Windows, Linux, macOS, DOS, Android, etc. And the second page is our main topic, one of them, main memory. Memory is a device or system that is used to store information for immediate use in a computer or related computer hardware in digital electronic device. Main memory refers to physical memory, that is, the internal memory to the computer. The word main is used to distinguish it from external mass storage device such as a disk drive. Memory is also known as RAM. The computer is able to change only data that is in main memory. And the next page is our topic is memory cell and dynamic RAM. Memory cells are attached into a silicon wafer in an array of columns or bit lines and rows or word lines. The intersection of bit line and word line constitute the address of the memory cell. And we move to explanation of dynamic RAM. Dynamic RAM works by sending a charge to the appropriate column or ISAS to activate the transistor at each bit in the column. When writing, the row lines contain the state of capacitor should take on. When reading, the sense amplifier determines the level of charge in the capacitor. If it is more than 50%, it was a 1. Otherwise, it reads it as a 0. And for the next page will be Muhammad Farhan Budiana.
Static RAM. Static RAM uses a completely different technology. In static RAM, a form of flip-flop holds each bit of a memory. A flip-flop for a memory cell takes 4 or 6 transistors along with some wiring, but never has to be refreshed. This makes static RAM significantly faster than dynamic RAM. Types of RAM. Here, the following are some common types of RAM. First, we have SRAM, or static random access memory. Yeah. It's use a multiple transistor, typically 4 to 6 for each memory cell, but doesn't have capacitor in each cell. It uses primarily for chats. DRAM, or dynamic random access memory, has memory cell with a paired transistor and capacitor requiring constant refreshing. FVM DRAM, or fast page mode dynamic random access memory, was the original form of DRAM. It waits through the entire process of locating a bit of data by column and row and then reading the bit before it starts on the next bit. And then we have EDO DRAM, or Extended Data Out Dynamic Random Access Memory. Doesn't wait for all the processing of the first bit before continuing into the next one. As soon as the address of the first bit is located, EDO DRAM begins looking for the next bit. And here's the maximum transfer rate to 1.2 chats is approximately 2064 megabyte per second. SDRAM, or Synchronous Dynamic Random Access Memory. It takes advantage of the burst mode concept to greatly improve the performance. It does this by staying on the row containing the request byte and moving rapidly through the columns, reading each bit as it goes. And we have DDR SDRAM. This is the next generation of the SDRAM. Double data rate synchronous dynamic RAM is just like SDRAM except that it has higher bandwidth, meaning it's greater speed. Its transfer rate is 2.1 until 3.2 MT per second or megatransfer per second. DDR was released in 2000 and has advanced 3 subsequent generations. First we have DDR2 and then DDR3, DDR4, and we have the latest is DDR5. And then we have the CMOS RAM. CMOS RAM is a term for the small amount of memory used by a Eurocomputer and some other device to remember things like hard disk settings. Yeah, this memory is just a small battery to provide it with the power it needs to maintain the power content. The last but not least, we have the VDRAM. VRAM, also known as a multi-pose dynamic random access memory, or MPDRAM, you can say it, is a type of RAM and used specifically for video updater or 3D acceleration. The multi-port part comes from the fact that VRAM normally has two independent access ports instead of one, allowing the CPU and graphic processor to access the RAM simultaneously. Yeah. Memory modules. The kinds of board and connector used for RAM in desktop computers have evolved over the past few years. The first types were proprietary, meaning that different computer manufacturers developed memory boards that would only work with their specific system. Then came SIMM, which stands for the Single Inline Memory Module. This memory board used a 30-pin connector and was about 3.5 and 0.75 inch in size, about 18 centimeter. In most computers, you had to install SIMM in pairs of equal capacity and speed. RAM requirement for an operating system. If your system responds slowly or accesses the hard drive constantly, then you need to add more RAM. If you are running a Windows 10, Microsoft recommends it 1 GB as the minimum RAM requirement for the 32-bit version and 2 GB for a 64-bit. And if you want to update your PC to Windows 11, the latest one, you will need at least 4 GB. And if you're using a Mac with a Mac OS 11 Big Sur, you will also need a 4 GB RAM. Linux has a reputation for working heavily on systems with low system requirement, including RAM. Ubuntu, one popular low requirement Linux distribution, requires a mere only 512 megabyte RAM. Ubuntu uses the lightweight XPC desktop environment, which also works with other Linux distributions.
The next one is RAM installation. Most of the time, installing RAM is a very simple and straightforward procedure. The key is to do your research, and here's what you need to know. First one is how much RAM you have, and then how much RAM you wish to add, and then form factor, and then the RAM type, the tools that you need, warranty, and where it goes. RAM is usually sold in densities with multiples of 2 GB, for example 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and etc. In conclusion, using main memory in operating system because storage capacity can be millions of arrangements. Each word or byte has its own address. The data stored in the main memory is unstable, meaning that the data stored in temporary and is meant obtained by power sources. If the power source is turned off, the data will be lost, and RAM is now used by all operating systems because of its better usability and has a better feature if it can be used for main memory in operating system. Suggestion: according to the author, main memory in the operating system is highly recommended because it can help in many ways. We are looking forward to future development. And thank you so much for listening and staying with us. And we're sorry if there's any mistake from our side. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.